I'm making this video to explain why I'm no longer vegan and to help anybody else out there who is suffering from the implications of veganism. I had somewhat of a social media presence a couple years ago. I had an Instagram and I promoted veganism, specifically raw veganism, for years on my social media platform. I deeply regret doing this, which I'm going to explain why over the course of this video, and I feel I owe it to the audience, the small audience that I did have, to explain why I no longer support those beliefs. I'm just going to begin with my story. I was born into a vegetarian family, so I was actually vegetarian from birth. My parents were vegetarian long before they had me, and so they wanted to raise me vegetarian. They believed strongly in that, and I had never had a piece of meat up until this past year in my life, like nothing. No kind of meat. I became vegan on my own when I was 9 or 10 after not really understanding why I wasn't eating meat, but I was eating animal products. I didn't really understand why we were doing that. I found it hypocritical. So I became vegan, and then my mom became vegan with me. My dad stayed vegetarian. And my health problems pretty much started at, from birth I had severe eczema. I'm covered, like from head to toe. It was on my eyelids, all over my face, painful. My mom would lather me up in like natural oils when I was a baby and sit me in front of a fan to let it dry, and like that was a huge part of my childhood, was suffering from eczema. And then when I was probably seven or 8, I started having digestive problems, mostly severe constipation, to the point I was in the hospital for an enema probably a couple times a year for almost 10 years. I never found a solution. The doctors would always say, drink more water, eat more fiber, eat more, whole grains and vegetables, and those are pretty much the only tips that they had for me, which I was vegan, so I was eating plenty enough fiber. They put me on Miralax for a while. Nothing, never had any advice correlating to my being vegan, which I never thought either, because I thought constipation is caused by fiber. How could it be veganism? And I also had this mindset of veganism being the end-all be-all perfect diet, like the holy grail. If you were vegan, you were pure. I had a very holier than thou mindset because I thought veganism equated to purity and perfectionism. Yeah, digestive issues, severe bloating, gas, and because of the bloating, I developed an eating disorder at a pretty young age. There were other factors as well. One of the biggest factors was the bloating. And I've heard a lot of other people who are vegan talk about this. The bloating gets so bad that your stomach is distended to a point, you look pregnant. That started happening at such a young age. And my brain, nobody ever told me what bloating was, Like nobody ever told me there's a difference between having fat and being bloated. I didn't know there was a difference. Saw my bloated stomach all the time after every time I ate a meal, basically just always. And I thought that meant that I was fat. I thought that meant that I had a big fat stomach, and I hated it, and it made me feel, disgusting, worthless. Like not only the appearance, obviously it was how I felt as a whole that the bloating was a symptom of, but my young mind, young teen girls always go through periods where they're distressed about their appearance, and to have that severe bloating just intensified it. And so I developed an eating disorder. I would go through phases of, I've never been diagnosed with anything because I didn't want to talk to a doctor about it. I didn't want help. But I would call it anorexia and then binging as well. So I would go, the longest I've gone without eating anything other than water was 2 weeks. And I did that pretty frequently in high school. I would go 2 weeks without eating. and then I would binge, and not on healthy food. I would binge on junk food. I would binge on pasta, bread, any kind of vegan junk food I could find, basically. But this cycle went on for years. And every time I ate, after I'd have that binge, I don't know why I didn't think that bloating, especially from eating that much in one sitting, was a thing. But I just thought, oh, I'm so fat, now I have to not eat again. And it would just be the same cycle. Starve myself for 2 weeks, binge. That was basically my entire high school life. I tortured my friends and family being that way. So that's basically where my health problems started. When I was 16, I decided to look into nutrition because I was very, very resistant to doing anything nutrition related about my eating disorder before that, because I had this mindset of nutrition doesn't matter, it's calories in, calories out. That's all I cared about. I just wanted to be skinny. I could care less about being healthy. I was mostly vegan for the animals and the environment, and I thought, as long as I'm vegan, I'm not eating any animal products, I am perfectly healthy. There's nothing else I need to do. I will live forever as long as I don't eat animal products. I really thought that way. And so I didn't care about health. I didn't care about nourishing my body. I didn't care about doing any kind of research on it. I knew nothing. It got to a point where I knew I couldn't do it anymore. The starving and binging cycle, like, it's insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. So I decided to just look into nutrition. And the first thing I found when I researched bloating, digestion, constipation, the issues I was having, was gluten. And gluten was probably the biggest staple in my diet from birth. Pasta, bread, vegan meat alternatives, all of that is wheat gluten. And that's pretty much all I ate. I rarely ate vegetables. I had some berries probably every day, a little handful of berries. But other than that, I was living on grains and seed oils, basically was my diet. So I thought, it couldn't be gluten. I've ate gluten my whole life. Like, I would have known by now if I had a gluten intolerance because that's all I eat. But I thought I'd give it a try, but it was intense when I did notice a difference. I mean, my bloating pretty much disappeared entirely. I would still get bloated after I ate a big meal, but that constant bloating that was always there was gone. The constipation was gone for the first time in my life since I was, 7 or 8. So that was a huge deal to me. I thought that was the answer. I was like, okay, perfect. I need to be gluten-free. I know my answer now. And so I got on this huge anti-gluten train, and I was on that for a while, and then that led me into being whole food plant-based, where all I ate was whole grains, legumes, no oil. I cut out all plant oils from my diet. So I was basically on a super, super low fat diet, just grains, legumes, fruits, and vegetables. No refined sugar. It was very, very strict. And I did that for a year and a half. And it just got worse after that. I would go through constipation and awful, explosive diarrhea, rotate through those two for basically the whole year. And I didn't think it could be my diet again, because I thought my diet was perfect. But horrible, horrible gas, horrible bloating again. Not as bad as when I ate gluten, but still bad bloating. My skin was awful. The acne was probably the worst I'd had yet. I've always had acne since I was 12, and it just got worse and worse over the years. But when I was on the whole food plant-based diet, it was cystic, and I didn't know what was happening to me. I was I'm eating this perfect, clean diet. How can I have all these health problems? I didn't understand what was wrong with me. And so that led me into the raw veganism rabbit hole, where I found Freely the Banana Girl, who I'm sure my Instagram past audience remembers. She was my idol. She promoted a high fruit, low fat diet, 100% raw or mostly raw. So I cut out, grains, legumes, I think that's pretty much all I had to cut out because I was already eating really strict. So at that point, I was just eating lots and lots of fruit, like 10 bananas a day, like a whole, frozen package of some kind of fruit in a smoothie, and then vegetables, sometimes like a big like veggie salad with just like leaves, like kale, raw vegetables, and all I would have for the dressing was salt and lemon juice. Avocado was my only source of fat, like no fat. And so I did that for probably a year. And then after that, I just went back to a pretty much normal vegan diet. I was still avoiding vegan junk food. I was still eating like mostly whole food. The only oils I was using were coconut and olive, and I was eating enough at this point. I realized, because when I went from only eating vegan junk food and starving myself and binging that whole thing, when I went from that to eating whole food plant-based and raw vegan, I was eating consistently when I was raw vegan and whole food plant-based. I was eating consistently. I wasn't starving myself. I was eating, at least 2 meals every day. I wasn't in a binge and starve cycle. And so I thought I had cured my eating disorder. But what I didn't realize is that obviously I wasn't getting enough calories. I wasn't getting any fat or protein, like no nutrition whatsoever. And I still wasn't eating enough. So, and deep down I knew that because I was so skinny. Like I'm 5'5", and I was 110 pounds when I was raw vegan. And it didn't look, I didn't look muscular or fit or healthy. I looked like I was starving. And I didn't realize that at the time, but looking back is like incredibly disturbing. But at the time, I loved my body for the first time in my life because I always wanted a very, very like skinny, petite frame, and I finally had that through starvation, of course. But after I started eating a normal vegan diet again, I gained probably 30 pounds, probably like 50 pounds, honestly. I went from 110 to about 160 is the highest I got, just eating a regular vegan diet. And I did that for a couple years again. Nothing got better, nothing got worse until like the end, when it was crippling. Just the same symptoms my entire life, from 7 years old to 20 years old, the same symptoms. And if you've never experienced digestive distress, like chronic digestion issues, it is crippling. Like it runs your life. I had to, often skip out on social situations, got in trouble at work. Like, my digestion pretty much ruled my life, my whole life. And I just want to make it clear, when I was whole food plant-based and raw vegan, I was eating a lot. So probably anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 calories when I was whole food plant-based, and I was still underweight. When I was raw vegan, probably anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 tops. So it's not like I was 100% starving. I was under eating, but it's not like back in the day when I was eating 500 calories a day, Another big health issue was that I never had a healthy cycle or a regular period, ever. I got my period for the first time when I was 13. I didn't get it again for a year. And then after that, it would come probably 2 times a year up until this year, actually. Up until I started eating animal products again is when I got my period back. But from ages 13 to 20, I got a period maybe twice a year. And when I did get one, it would be like, 10 days long, something crazy like that. Never healthy, never normal. And in fact, the last time I went to a gynecologist before I started eating animal products again, she told me if I don't figure out how to have a healthy cycle, she wanted me to get on birth control. But if I don't figure out how to get a healthy cycle, I'm at a very high risk for uterine cancer. And like that was like a huge wake-up call for me. Like that was scary. Like I need to figure something out. And at that time I wasn't eating any fat again. Right before I stopped being vegan, I was trying raw vegan again because my health was so bad. I was overweight. My skin was awful again. Like, digestion, just everything was a mess. And I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to look healthy. I wanted to feel healthy. And so I was like, I guess I'm going to try raw vegan again. Like, maybe I'll do it right this time. I'll eat 3,000, 4,000 calories a day. I got to figure this out. And never in my mind had it occurred to me that veganism wasn't the answer. I always thought veganism was the only way to go. I started doing raw vegan again for probably 5 months. Not even that long, probably like 3 months, 100% raw vegan, only eating fruit. And I was like, how did I ever feel good on this? Because I felt like shit, like the lowest energy I've ever experienced. I was freezing all the time, so cold. I literally felt dead. I felt like the blood wasn't circulating through my body. I felt dead. And it didn't help anything. Didn't help me lose weight, didn't help with digestion, didn't help with anything. And I was like, why did I feel so good on this? I think at the time, the first time I did raw veganism, I felt good because I was cleansing so much that needed to be cleansed after eating, gluten and seed oils and artificial flavors and colors and all that crap my whole life. I think it was like my body was cleansing so much of that out that I started to feel better than I had ever experienced. Not, optimal, but better than I'd ever experienced. But the second time that I tried, it was just awful. Like, I was like, I don't understand how anybody lives on this kind of diet. Like, there are people out there that go 20 years on a raw vegan diet, and that is insane to me because I literally felt like a ghost. I felt dead. So I don't know how those girls do it. I really think it's just that it makes them look good. Like, it makes them skinny. And I think that's all the motivation they need, probably because they have severe eating disorders, but that's another tangent. And then after I did this raw vegan the second time, I went to like a super high protein plant-based diet because I was like, oh, maybe I just need protein. Maybe I'm just not getting enough protein. Because I'd been listening to Freely for years telling me protein is insignificant, you don't need any protein is a scam, you just need carbs. That's like, I fully believed that for years. So then I was like, oh, maybe I just need to go on like a high protein diet. Like, maybe protein will help. So then I was eating like a huge block of tofu a day, like the extra protein tofu. I was eating a whole one of those a day. Basically living on soy, like maybe more than that, like a lot of tofu. Vegan protein shakes. I would meal prep with like a side of broccoli and then like a smoothie for breakfast with a bunch of protein powder. I did that for probably 4 months. And anyway, I've tried everything. I've tried every vegan diet. And honestly, if one of you tries to tell me that I was never truly vegan or I did it wrong, honestly, fuck off. Because I've tried everything, okay? I've been vegan since I was 9 years old. I've tried every kind of vegan diet. And nothing works. I'm telling you, nothing works. And the longer you try, the longer you're vegan, the more you deteriorate. There is literally a YouTube channel, shout out, called Vegan Deterioration. And it's what happens. It doesn't matter what kind of vegan diet you're doing. Sure, some will make you deteriorate faster, like raw, but it's all gonna make you fall apart. And it took me so long to realize that, 15 years almost. But I got to a point this past year that my health was just at an all-time low. Couldn't even get out of bed. No energy, ever. I used to work at grocery stores and stuff. I would have shifts later in the day at 2. I would wake up in the morning, go get something to eat, around 9 a.m., get something to eat breakfast, and then by the time I was done eating breakfast, I was so exhausted I couldn't keep my eyes open. And so I would sleep until I had to work. And mind you, I was getting 9 hours of sleep every night. There's no reason I should have been that tired, especially after eating a meal. If you get tired after eating a meal, you're not eating the right foods, period. And I know now that was a blood sugar problem and just getting no nutrition in general. But yeah, never had any energy. My digestion was bad as ever, like back to how it was before I even started this health journey, like never going to the bathroom, chronic constipation again. And yeah, when I did, diarrhea, horrible gas, because when you don't shit, you're gonna get bad gas and it's not gonna, be pleasant. So that wasn't good either. No social life because of that. And this is only the physical. This is only the physical health problems. The mental, like, I can't even explain. I've had an anxiety disorder since I was like 6 years old, maybe before that. I couldn't sleep I know it's like a common thing for kids, but I couldn't sleep alone, like without my mom, until I was literally like 12. And it's not just like I would cry or whatever, like normal kids. Like I would have like full on like anxiety attacks to the point I was hyperventilating if I had to be alone. And this anxiety, like that's kind of where the anxiety started, but having that anxiety disorder carried on like throughout my life after that. Like horrible anxiety, constant anxiety. Therapists would ask me, what's causing your anxiety? Like when you're anxious, that means like you're anxious about something happening, something coming up. And I was like, no, I have nothing to be anxious about. It's just the feeling. Like it's just the feeling of that constant nagging anxiety that I experienced my entire life. Like going out of the house. And this is the sad thing. Like I'm a very like extroverted, adventurous, like restless person. I like to go out and do stuff. I don't like to be like sitting in the house all the time. I like to go out and do stuff. But my anxiety was so crippling that I couldn't even leave the house, because every time I left the house, it was like just like severe like anxiety overboard. Like just all of my senses felt like they were in overdrive. Just like painful anxiety, physically painful. It was torturous to like leave my comfort zone where I knew like I could at least function at home. But horrible anxiety, horrible depression from like age 12. My lack of motivation just got worse and worse over the years. Never had like concentration, always really bad with concentration and focus. Irritability, like you can like literally like all my friends know, my parents know, my family. I had like the worst irritability ever. And it wasn't like normal like teenage irritability. It was like rage almost. Like it was like when I was vegan, it was like my senses were like turned all the way up, like so heightened. Like the tiniest things would irritate me and it would feel like physical, like all throughout my body. I could feel like the irritation like all throughout my body, just like the tiniest things that would annoy me that much. And it was like constant, and I treated people bad because of it. And I've heard stories from other ex-vegans saying that like irritability was like a major issue, and now I know obviously it's nutrient deficiency. But yeah, so those are like the mental implications and the physical implications of my life because of veganism. I'm not sure where to start here because I have so much. I'm just gonna go into what causes these health problems, physical and mental. There's a very minimal amount of nutrition that you can actually get from plants. Plant walls are built from cellulose. Cellulose has to be broken down in order for us to access those nutrients. Herbivores have 3 stomachs. Those 3 stomachs are responsible. They have a stomach responsible for breaking down that cellulose. We don't have that. We have 1 stomach, and we don't have like a built-in system to be able to really break down that cellulose. That's why a lot of the times, in your bowel movements, you'll see like plant particles in there, because we're not very capable of breaking down plants. And it is hard for us to access those nutrients. Sure, we get a small amount of them, but we don't get nearly enough of what we really need. And not to mention, there is a slew of vitamins and minerals that don't even occur in plant foods. You can't find them. And yeah, people will say, you can take a supplement. I took supplements my whole life. They did nothing for me. And a lot of those supplements, you need animal fats, you need cholesterol, you need animal nutrition to even be able to absorb those supplements. I'm just gonna read this list of vitamins that aren't even in plants. Vitamin A, retinol, which is vitamin A, you cannot find in plants. There is beta carotene, which has to be converted into retinol in your body, which not everybody can do. Not everybody is even born with the ability to convert beta carotene to retinol. And especially if you're sick, if you're unhealthy, your body definitely is not going to be able to do that. So the longer you're vegan, the more your health falls apart, like the less you're going to be able to convert. Vitamin B6, vitamin B12, which vitamin B12 causes permanent nerve damage if you're deficient for long enough, you will have permanent nerve damage. Vitamin D, you can get, vitamin D from the sun, yes, but in order to get vitamin D from the sun and have your body convert it into vitamin D, you need cholesterol. Cholesterol is what converts the sun rays that you absorb into vitamin D. If you don't have cholesterol, you're not getting anything. Vitamin K2, which again is only in animal products. If you don't have enough vitamin K2, calcium is going to build up in your arterial walls instead of your bones. Creatine, carnitine, carnosine, taurine, heme iron, CoQ10, CLA, DHA, and APA. None of those are in plant foods. None of those. Zinc is found in plant foods in small amounts, but again, these nutrients are so hard to get out of plants. They are bioavailable in animal products. They are so hard to get out of plants. You would have to eat an insane amount of plants, like physically impossible amount, to be able to get like a sufficient amount of these nutrients. If you don't have enough zinc, low immunity, poor digestion, skin problems, brain health, depression, all of that, zinc deficiency, which is very common from a plant-based diet. Vitamin A, retinol, if you don't get enough of that, your skin's gonna fall apart. You're gonna have poor eyesight. Vitamin A deficiency can cause acne, it can cause eczema, it can cause any kind of skin condition, which I suffered from greatly. If you don't get enough vitamin D, your bones are gonna suffer, your heart's gonna suffer, your brain is gonna suffer, and again, you need cholesterol for vitamin D. We don't have an herbivore system. People always say, vegans love to, bring up a chart of, an herbivore and a frugivore and a human. Okay, frugivores are not always strictly plant eaters. A lot of the frugivores, they eat mostly fruit, but they also eat bugs, they also eat animal products. You can eat mostly fruit and be designed to eat mostly fruit and also eat animals. Apes are frugivores that also eat animals. And yes, there are frugivores that only eat plants, but we don't have a system like theirs. We have a system that is designed to process animal products. We have high stomach acid, which goes down the longer you're vegan. The stomach acid decreases, which is another health problem. We have one stomach, not three, not two. We have one stomach that is designed to process animal products and a very small load of plants. Plants are cleansing. Animal products are nourishing. Animal products have the nutrients that we need. They have the fat that we need. They have the protein that we need. Plants are cleansing. Plants are good for medicine. Plants are good for, having a cup of tea, having a garnish on your plate, having a little side. Plants are not meant to be your main source of food and nutrition. Absolutely not. That is how chronic disease develops, is by making plants your main source. Plants are very good at cleansing. Plants are very medicinal. That's why people have used plants for medicine for thousands of years. They are medicinal and they are cleansing. And that's why a lot of people, when they go on a vegan diet, coming from a standard American diet, they feel this jolt of energy, of health, of feeling alive, that vegan glow that people talk about. That is because the plants are cleansing your body from all of the toxins you've been putting in it your whole life. That's why you're getting that high from going vegan. Plants are not nutrition. Plants are not nourishing. They're not food. To go into fat and protein, protein isn't bioavailable from plants either. There is technically protein in plants, not enough, not a full array of the amino acids. Don't bring up quinoa to me. But The protein isn't bioavailable. Again, for the same reason. We don't have a system to be able to break down the cellulose to access the nutrients. And for fat, there is a difference between animal fat, like the fat that you have in your body, the yellow stuff, like when you do an exam and you see the fat in your body, like that is animal fat. There's a difference between animal fat and plant oils. And we have built our, we've built our society on plant oils. They're in everything, but that isn't fat. Like it contains lipids, but that isn't animal fat. We need animal fat, especially females, to thrive, especially for hormonal health. We need animal fat. It has the cholesterol we need. It has the saturated fat that we need. Yes, we do need saturated fat. It's actually the most important fat. Plant oils, I believe, are what is causing so much of this chronic disease. Before the 1900s, we weren't eating plant oils, seed oils. We weren't eating those. We were frying things in lard. We were frying things in butter. We were frying things in tallow. Those are the only kind of fats that we ate were animal fats. And guess what? We had a hell of a lot less chronic disease back then than we do now when we started incorporating all these plant oils. And so I think most of the health problems that vegans blame on animal products are coming from plant oils, seed oils. That is the toxic stuff. Like just look up a video of how canola oil is extracted. It is disgusting. That is not food. Before the 1900s, we were using plant oils for machinery, for lamps. Like that is not food. We are not supposed to be eating that, especially frying our food in it. Like to the point that it's absorbing that much. Like the amount of corn we would have to eat to get even like a tablespoon of corn oil is insane. It's physically impossible. You have to think about nature. Like if we were meant to eat corn oil, sesame oil, sunflower oil, whatever it may be, think about the amount of the whole food we would have to eat to get that amount of oil from it. It is unnatural. It's impossible. Anyway, animal fats are very, very important, especially for females. Sex hormones come from cholesterol. Cholesterol controls sex hormones. So a lot of people that go vegan experience low sex drive, or their sex drive is all over the place because their hormones are all over the place. A lot of people that go vegan get skin problems like acne, hormonal acne. If you don't have cholesterol, your hormones are going to be all over the place. Women losing their periods is like the first sign that something is wrong. If your cycle is off, you need to look at your diet and lifestyle. Most plants, besides fruit, have something called anti-nutrients. They're little compounds that bind to nutrients and prevent them from being absorbed. So on top of not being able to absorb stuff from plants, then you're also adding anti-nutrients, which bind to nutrients and prevent you from absorbing them at all. And anti-nutrients cause a lot more problems, digestive problems, because these plants have defense mechanisms. Plants don't want to be eaten. Animals don't want to be eaten either, but they can run away. Like animals have legs, they can run away, they can defend themselves, they can attack. Like they have defense mechanisms, they don't need anti-nutrients. But plants aren't able to do that. They need a defense mechanism, so they developed anti-nutrients to make people sick, to block people from being able to get anything out of the food, as a means to say, stop eating me, stop killing me, stop eating me. Like that is their defense mechanism, is anti-nutrients. Anti-nutrients are found in whole foods. So I believe that I started experiencing bad digestion again, like really bad digestion again when I went whole food plant-based, because I was eating so much whole food, whole grains, legumes, which are ridden with anti-nutrients. Like white, like refined grains don't have anti-nutrients because everything is stripped from them except the endosperm, which is just the carbohydrate. But when I went on a whole food plant-based diet, I believe that's why things got worse, because I was eating so many anti-nutrients. People don't like to talk about that either. So what I'm doing now, I'm eating what I call an animal-based diet. I went the opposite way. But after doing all this research and after this journey that I've been on for the past year, I believe that this is the healthiest way of eating, and it's how I've never experienced this kind of health and vitality my entire life. I didn't know this was possible. I didn't know, I'm literally gonna cry. I didn't know what health was. I had an Instagram page called The Health Goddess. I didn't even know what health was. I didn't know what nutrition was. I didn't know what feeling good was. And, you know, since going animal-based, I feel like I'm alive. I feel like I'm alive for the first time in my life. I felt like a walking shell of a human basically my entire life from being vegan. And it's amazing now to be able to go out in public and not have a panic attack, to be able to leave my house, not have a panic attack, to not have my entire life revolve around my digestion, to look at my face and not see, you know, it covered in blemishes, to not have painful, like, eczema, like, all of this stuff is life-changing and something I never knew I could experience because I wouldn't open my mind enough to let the information I needed in. But now I'm doing, animal-based, so I eat lots of eggs, lots of meat, lots of organ meats. Organ meats are so important. Raw dairy, and occasional honey, raw honey. And the only plant that I am eating is fruit, which doesn't seem to irritate me like other plants do. But right now, I'm in a space where I destroyed my body for so long with veganism, I can't really tolerate any plants. All I can tolerate are animal products because of what I did to my body for so long. I'm not planning on being animal-based, carnivore, whatever you want to call it, forever. But I'm in a healing space right now. I'm trying to heal my body from the damage I did with veganism, and this is what my body needs right now. That's where I'm at with my my diet currently. And now I'm just gonna go into the argument for the environment with veganism. I need to cover everything in this video because I did a lot of damage to a lot of people preaching veganism over the years. I know I can't undo that, but I'm trying my best to undo the misconceptions that I taught for so long. So what I'm going to talk about next is the environment. A lot of people, a lot of vegans, a lot of people who encourage veganism talk about how veganism is the best diet for the environment. You're doing more than anybody can do if you're just vegan. And I bought into that. I believed that for years. And I used that as well to build myself up and to make myself feel holier than thou. You know, I would tell myself, what are you guys doing for the environment? Like, I'm doing everything. I'm sacrificing everything because I care this much, and I'm such a good person because I'm vegan. You know, I told myself that for years. I told other people that for years. But that's not the case. That is another myth. Veganism is not the healthiest diet for the environment. Absolutely not. In fact, it could be doing more harm because the plants that you're eating, the monocropping, is killing the environment. It takes an insane amount of machinery and chemicals. Those chemicals leach into the waterways. We're clearing out huge spaces of land to build an entire, field of the same plant growing on dead soil that we're stripping of its nutrition and just dousing it in chemicals. Like, that is what most, unless you're like 100% regenerative organic vegan, that is what most vegans are eating, is an insane amount of plants that are monocropped. Monocropping is killing the environment. So you're not doing as much as you think you are. When people talk about animal products, especially cows that are killing the environment, what they're talking about is factory farming, which is disgusting and something I will never support. Factory farming is evil, and it is killing the environment too, for sure. Because they're doing the same thing the monocropping people are doing. They're not taking care of the soil. They're using an insane amount of chemicals and machinery. They're stripping the land. Obviously not good. But if you eat from regenerative organic farms like I do, regenerative organic animal agriculture is the best thing that you can contribute to dietary-wise for the environment. Regenerative, specifically animal agriculture, is like the best dietary thing for the environment. It's a cycle. So the bugs, the insects, they fertilize the land, they fertilize the soil. The soil is being taken care of with water and with manure, which is necessary, instead of just chemicals. The animals are raised on this soil, they eat this healthy soil, they fertilize the healthy soil, and it's a whole cycle. Then the animals are eating the healthiest grass from the healthiest soil. The animals are healthy. They're outside all day in the pasture, under the sun. They're not being hooked up to machines their entire lives in factories. And this cycle of nutrition with the soil is really what's nourishing the earth. Instead of stripping the land and building a factory, you're building a big, green, beautiful pasture for animals to live on, to graze on, to thrive on. And in turn, that creates an ecosystem with the bugs, with the wild plants that are grown, which is the best thing for the environment. So it's all about the source. If you are eating mostly factory farmed animal products, stop. That is destroying the environment. That is not good. And vegans are right about that. But monocropping is just as bad. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is really why I became vegan in the first place, which is my love for animals. And this is probably one of the most important talking points of veganism, and something, you at a certain point you really can't argue out of, because if someone wants to sacrifice their own health and well-being for the lives of animals, can't really argue with that. That's their choice. Like, if that's the most important thing to them is animals being alive, go ahead. Like, you can't really, tell them that they're wrong for sacrificing their own health. For myself, obviously, I'm always going to love animals. I see animals as beautiful and sacred and magical and gifts on this earth, truly. And I will always feel that way, and that is a big reason why I'm only ever going to buy animal products from the healthiest, happiest farms. I do a tremendous amount of research before I buy animal products. I don't go to McDonald's. I don't go out, even when I go out to eat, I don't buy animal products there unless I know exactly where it's coming from, because my morals and my principles in life remain the same from when I was vegan to now, and they always will. I'm never going to contribute to factory farming or that evil, literal hell on earth that takes place. But what I've come to understand, and what I've had to come to understand, is that there is a circle of life. Everything on this planet eats other living beings, whether it's animals or plants, but there's really not one species on Earth that only eats plants. Even the herbivores, eat insects. Like, there is a circle of life that takes place, and that is how the ecosystem is built. That's how Mother Nature, Mother Earth intended for her planet to be. And I'm going to honor that because I saw firsthand with myself the implications when you don't honor that. So I am going to do what I need to do for my own health the best way that I can, and I am going to continue to eat animal products for the rest of my life. I'm just going to do it the best way that I can do it, and I understand now that taking a life is a big thing, even if you're not the one holding the weapon. When you eat an animal, you have a big responsibility for taking that life. And I always say a prayer before I eat. When I eat animal products, which is, every meal now, I not only pray to my higher power and to Mother Earth for the food, but I also say a prayer to the animal that gave me their body, that gave me their milk, their eggs, their flesh for my nutrition. I say a prayer to them because that's the ultimate gift. And I am going to remain grateful for that. it's not just a meal to me. It's not just food. It's a life. It's a sacrifice. I'm always gonna love animals. I'm always gonna honor animals. I'm always gonna appreciate animals. But I know now that I am doing what's best for me. I'm doing what's best for the environment, and I'm doing what's best for the animals. I am not willing to sacrifice my health so that animals can stay alive. Veganism is not, saving more lives than eating a regenerative animal-based diet is. Again, with the monocropping, it kills a lot of animals in the crossfire by monocropping land. And vegans just don't consider this stuff. I think they think more directly, like, well, if I'm buying a pound of beef, I'm directly buying an animal's body. But they don't think about, if I'm buying a box of pasta, that's also contributing to killing thousands of animals for the land it takes to grow that pasta. A couple books I would recommend are The Vegetarian Myth by Lierre Keith, amazing, and Vegetarianism Explained by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, also amazing. She is amazing. This has been the single most crazy and important and life-changing journey I've ever had to go through. I'm only 21 years old, but I had to reconstruct my entire identity, my entire life because of this, because I had built myself and my identity on veganism from the time I was a child. And so coming out of that was very difficult for me, and I haven't, it's not like I had a huge social media presence. I just had an Instagram account, but I haven't been on my Instagram account in almost 3 years because I've been going through this journey. Like, I've had to figure out, okay, I have this Instagram account that I was trying to grow, that I wanted to help people with nutrition, called myself the health goddess. Like, that was my whole brand. Again, small Instagram account, but I was trying to grow it. I had to figure out what I was doing, like what I wanted to really promote to people, because my health was deteriorating so much. How could I help anybody else? How could I sit there and, tell people that veganism is the healthiest thing for you when I was like the sickest, pretty much as sick as it gets, dietary wise? How could I do that? So that's why I took off so much time to figure out my health and to come back with a clear answer and knowing. And I am clear on this now. I'm very clear. And I will continue to promote animal-based eating. And I will continue to promote anti-veganism because I truly am. I truly think it can ruin a life. And that's mostly what I'm going to build this page off of, is anti-veganism and teaching people true nutrition, real nutrition. So anyways, I hope that I helped someone out there. If anybody has any questions or needs any kind of help with their diet, if you're suffering from veganism, please reach out to me. I am so happy to help anybody. I feel like I was vegan for 10 years, vegetarian for 20, so I feel like I have a really good understanding of what veganism is, how it can affect people, and how to recover from it. So if you are dealing with those negative effects, please reach out to me. I'm here. And for any vegans, talk to me. Like, we can have a discussion, Like, I know you disagree with me. Let's talk about it. Thank you for listening. If you have taken, you've listened for an hour, thank you. And I'm sorry to the people out there that I misled. I am truly sorry. And I hope I can help you further now. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.